Isn't it funny that finding who we are as adults is rediscovering who we were as children? Welcome to Almost Grown Up, the podcast where we figure out life one creative detour at a time. Hi, I'm Lucy, a writer, creator, and your creative companion. And around here, we believe play and wonder aren't just for kids. In fact, they're the things we use to navigate life's big questions, reconnect with joy, and find our way when we realize the map we're on isn't our map. Each week we'll explore growing up with stories, creative inspiration, and one huge permission slip to create your own beautiful and occasionally messy life. So welcome to the Blanketfort. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Blanketfort. I am super excited to talk about today's topic because it's just a great topic. It is all about hobbies and rediscovering small joys in our life. So I read this quote. I was like one of those things that social media serves, like the algorithm knows you too well. And it's like, oh, here, you're going to love this. And the quote was something like, isn't it funny that finding who we are as adults is rediscovering who we were as children? And I was like, yes, so true. Yay to exploring our childlike selves. Yay to accessing that part of us that knows a lot of stuff, that created a lot of meaning, that followed their joy and pleasure and curiosity and play. And I think they're all really helpful things that we can use to center in ourselves. So I read that quote and I was like, yes, love this. Have so much time for this. But it made me think that quite often the question comes up, okay, great, but where do we go from there? And also, how do we fit those childlike qualities into our lives? And that's why I'm really passionate about kind of sharing this idea that play and wonder aren't things we add on top. They are actually the tools. They're the things that we use to solve the problems, figure out life, get where we want to go, achieve our goals, all of those things. But also, I think sometimes I can get caught up talking about that side of things and forget to mention pleasure and joy and the idea that these things feel good, play feels good, wonder feels good because they're supposed to, because they reaffirm to us that this is an action that we can continue to do and enjoy. And so I wanted to talk today about hobbies because I see them as one of these doorways into accessing play and wonder, into getting in touch with that very intelligent childlike part of ourselves that knows us better than we would be able to articulate and just has a sense or a spark of what interests us, where our curiosity lies, what is going to motivate us, what is going to connect us with other people, with ourselves, all of those important things that we are trying to do. So that is what today is all about. And in the last few episodes, I've started to talk a bit about this framework of the doorways into play, with permission being one of them. And then in the last episode, I talked a lot about wonder and that stepping into the kind of look and listen part, that paying attention part. And today I kind of associate hobbies with action. The joy of hobbies is it gets us moving, it gets us creating momentum. And that momentum is just pure energy and possibility that we can build out of nothing. And so that is what we're going to dive into today. Let's do it. So I think that hobbies are the side hack that we created when we realized all of a sudden we weren't supposed to play as adults. And when we created the idea of hobbies, it's kind of like bringing that part of our childlike self into our adulting life. It's like that permission that we get to have every week to go and do that thing, to be part of that group, to play that sport, to try making this thing, to create something, to be silly with friends or do something that feels joyful to us. And I think hobbies are amazing because they are that first permission slip to play. They're kind of agreed as adults that we're like, okay, we'll call this a hobby. We'll let ourselves do it. It's all okay. So that for me is great. Like hobbies are like the first hack of play. And I think just giving yourself permission to go and explore hobbies is going to be helpful to you because everyone around you is going to be like, oh, she's so well rounded. Look at her with her hobbies. And secretly you're just like, I am playing. This is so much fun. So I think that permission slip to play, and also to turn up regularly for something that we allow ourselves to experiment with and to mess around with. Hobbies are part of the greatness of hobbies is they're not this side hustle. Hobbies are for the joy. And I love that. I love that we've created an area of our lives that is about joy, that is about pleasure, that is about having fun or experiencing something different or growing, that is just about something for us, right? And if you're doing any hobbies that don't feel like that, maybe you need to think about what hobbies you want to be doing. Maybe it's time to switch them up. Maybe you want to rethink the way you approach a current hobby you have, because I think the power of hobbies lies in that permission slip to play and that permission to step into a pleasurable, joyful state that is not about anything other than that experience. It is a great reminder of the power of experience and the journey over the end point. And yes, with your hobbies, you might create something at the end, but really the point of the hobby is the activity, right? It's that atelic part of it. The way we go for a walk, that is an atelic activity. And because the whole point of the walk is to go for the walk, right? It's the pleasure of the journey. It's not about where you end up, because if it was about where you end up, which is probably home, you wouldn't have gone for the walk, because that's where you started, right? So I think allowing ourselves to go on this journey with hobbies and spend time regularly doing something that is atelic, something that is for the joy of doing it and the process of doing it, not the end point of it. And I also think by showing up regularly for a hobby, what we start to do is give ourselves a moment in which we're absorbed in something, in which we're present in something, in which we're paying attention, and being able to build over time a sense of where we put our attention and how we feel when we're doing that thing, and grow in it, because we might get feedback from what we like and what we don't like. We might get feedback on how we feel when we're doing that thing and how we could maybe shift it slightly to feel even better, or what's niggling at us that we might want to change for the future, because maybe you love a hobby, you're doing it, but you don't love the group you're doing it with. Or maybe you really love sports and you're going for runs, but you feel a bit lonely. Maybe it's time to look for a kind of community sport, a team sport, or a running group. There are all of these different options, but the more we show up regularly and do the same thing, the more it allows us to pay attention to what we're doing, and then act based on that, based on what we've noticed, and get curious about where we're at with that thing. And so I think hobbies are a powerhouse. And if you don't have a hobby, this is my argument for you to start one. And I'm going to go through in a minute as to like how you might approach that. If you do have a hobby, stick around, because hopefully what we'll cover off now quickly is how you can kind of vet, like, is that hobby feeling good for me? Is there something else that I could be spending some time on as well, or a different thing? Or do you know what? No, I love my hobby. It's great. Brilliant. Like, if that's you and you don't even want to stick around for this, cool. Just go and do your hobby. Do it now. I would love to hear what it is. Please leave me a comment and let me know, because I'm always inspired. I'm a bit of a hobby collector. It's really bad. I'm one of those people that sees something and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I want to try that. And that's great, but I need to rein it in a little bit. But I would love to hear what your hobby is, and I can kind of live vicariously through you for a second. So please leave me a comment and let me know. But right now, let's dive into how you find a hobby if you don't have one, and maybe how you give yourself a little bit of permission to find one, bring one into your life on a more regular basis. Let's find you a hobby. So I have a list of journaling prompts that I think are a great way to get started. And my suggestion for these would be that you answer them as quickly as you possibly can. You don't over censor what you're thinking. You don't spend too long pondering it. You just write down by instinct and see what comes, because you can always revisit the question and spend more time on it. But I actually think just getting that first initial reaction down is super helpful and will hopefully help you uncover some areas that you could go and explore. So the questions are: what things did you love doing as a kid? Then list 5 things that you think are cool but you would never do. List 5 silly things that you'd like to try at least once. List 5 hobbies that you'd love to have. Write down what you're getting drawn to now. Like, what are those things that are sparking interest when you're on social media, when you're walking down the street, when you kind of engage with other people and what they're doing? There might be things, sparks that have popped up. Look for those sparks and capture them. And then once you've answered these journal questions, I want you to kind of go through and see, are there any similarities? Are there any areas of specific interest? Maybe you're like a sporty kind of person and you've got lots of things that are like, oh, play this game or try out this sport or try this cool thing. Or maybe you've centered all on the crafts and you are like, get me a sewing machine, get me some knitting needles. I am going to felt collage this. Or maybe you want to do some digital collage or some song making or some writing, or there are so many different hobbies to have. I'm not even going to list them all. Cooking or horse riding, or I don't know. There are so many hobbies. I'm just like origami. Great hobby. I'm going to stop rambling about hobbies. I'm going to let you come up with whatever hobbies you've come up with. But I want you to go through those journaling questions that you found and look for clues as to kind of like, what are the areas and what jumps out? Like, when you are reading through those things that you wrote, is there anything that really just feels a bit juicy, that feels like, that thing? And when you find that thing, if you don't find that thing, don't worry. You can just pick whatever one sounds great. But when you find that thing, what I want you to do is think about how you could do a like small part of that this week. Like, how could you dip a toe in that type of hobby? Whether it's, going to a class on that, or finding a class online on it, or just watching a YouTube video online on it, or listening to a podcast, or whether it's just scouting out sports halls or running groups or potential shops that sell the thing that you want to make, or getting some new writing material and just starting to jot down a few ideas. That idea of just getting started in a really small way is such a powerful step, and it's something I'm going to keep coming back to, is this idea of small, continuous, playful acts. And this is one of them, right? Is you just find something that pulls you a little bit, that draws your curiosity and maybe a bit stronger than other things, and then go and find a way to just live that a little bit, just a tiny bit. It doesn't have to be the big version of it. Maybe you're like, my hobby is going to be directing plays, and maybe you're not going to mount a whole play this week. Maybe you're not going to direct a full thing, but maybe you could listen to a podcast about directing, or maybe you could direct your own mini animation with something that you draw, or maybe you could direct the fruit to do something in the fruit bowl while you're kind of prepping your food. Like, it doesn't need to be witnessed by anybody. It doesn't need to have anything that is produced from it. It's just about dipping your toe and having that kind of experience and having fun while you do it. So if you are directing fruit in a fruit bowl, please tell me. Please. I would love to hear. Please tell me the name of the play, what you talked about. Like, I really want to know. Leave me a comment. Let me know, please. Genuinely, that will make my day. If you haven't directed a play with fruit and now you're like, great idea, because I've never done this, and now I'm like, something I should do. Maybe we can do it together. Let me know. That could become a cool play challenge that we do, like theatre in fruit bowl. That's not a great title. We'll work on it. We'll workshop it. But anyway, once you've found that thing and you've done one small action towards it, I want you to try and commit to doing something like that for the next 3 weeks, month. Just give yourself 30 days maybe of trying that thing. And maybe it's something you do once a week. Maybe it's something you can fit into more regularly than once a week. Maybe it's a daily thing or every other day thing. But the point is that you want to try it out. Like, let's try these hobbies on for size. There are so many different things we could get passionate about in the world and explore. And actually, it's okay to try something out for a little bit and then go, do you know what? Not my thing. I'm going to try something else. Or that was great, but I want to go and this is now calling me. And I think so often we feel like when we prescribe to say this is our hobby, we have to commit to it for like a couple of years or for our lifetime. And we are changeable creatures. We flow. Our desires change with the seasons, with what is going on in our lives. So let's give ourselves permission to just try something for a little bit. And I think the key here is to commit to a period of time, and a longer period of time than a one-off. Because the thing with a one-off is it's great and it's really good fun, but it's not going to build that momentum for you. It's not going to create that kind of energy that drives into possibility for you. And it's not really going to give you a sense of what it is like to do that hobby. Whereas if you can commit to it to 30 days, a month, a couple of months, and just try it out and see, you might get a sense of what that's doing for you in your life, what energy it's giving you, what spaces and ideas it's opening up, how you feel when you're doing it, and just create momentum through it. And if at the end of that time you're like, not for me, you can take a pause, see what else calls you, and then try something else. And that is your permission slip right there to be flaky on these things. That's okay. It's 100% okay, but try and commit to a small amount of time where you're not flaky, just to see what it's like when you're doing it. And then the next idea I have for you, which I think is helpful or has been really helpful for me, is to document a bit the process. And this right here is my I've called it my play and wonder book. And what I'm doing is capturing things in it that are fun for me to do. I've created kind of like a project ideas. This is almost my like hobby list. And I'm kind of capturing trips I take. I'm capturing different creative briefs I've given myself. I'm capturing like weekends in my life. I'm setting myself challenges. I am writing book reports. I am just playing around in this space. And the reason why I think this is really useful is when we kind of give ourselves this field guide for hobbies, we give ourselves a way to capture our experience. It also turns it into something that is reflective and helpful and gives us permission to experiment and see it as learning rather than needing the endpoint to be great. Like you will see in there, I've done lots of drawings, and I am not a great drawer or wouldn't have considered myself a great drawer. It's something that I am slowly working on, and I really love art and illustration, and it's quite frustrating sometimes to look at something I've done and think like, oh gosh, that doesn't look anything like I'd like it to look, or I just don't like that bit. And it can feel really disheartening when you focus on those things. But what I did in here that has been so useful for me, and I think is a really useful kind of hobby hack, is for every page that I have created, every kind of project that I've done, I have then given myself a kind of reflection on it. I've talked about, hey, what was the project and what was the creative brief? Like, what were the confines that I gave myself for that project or that hobby? And then how did I feel? What did I like about it? What were the good things that I saw in it? The good experiences I had, the bit that I liked out of what I created, whatever it is. And then what were the things I didn't like so much? Where were the challenges? Did I have any questions after it? And capturing those two things, and then at the end, lessons learned from it, has been hugely helpful because it's made me braver to try things out and say, hey, I really liked this, but I don't like that bit, and this bit's gone wrong, and I think next time I do it, what I might do is this. And I think when we give ourselves that kind of like field guide, that experience of personal feedback on the experience for ourselves, on what we're doing, on what we're creating, on the hobby we have, then it becomes this really virtuous cycle of learning, because it's not about what is on that page or how that project went. Because let's say you want to get into knitting and you're like, I'm going to knit myself a jumper. Jumpers for spring. I mean, that's maybe now is not the time for knitting, but let's pretend it is. Let's pretend you're in the Southern Hemisphere. You might be in the Southern Hemisphere. Hi. Nice to see you. How's the future? Hopefully, fingers crossed. Great. So maybe you're knitting your jumper for autumn, winter now because you're in the Southern Hemisphere. And I'm really sorry to anybody in the Southern Hemisphere that I've just completely washed over with my chat about spring. So maybe you're knitting a jumper and that's your new hobby, right? And you get through knitting it and one part of it just goes a little bit wrong. Like one sleeve is longer than the other, or the shoulders don't quite match up, or actually you don't love the wool that you got, or the color's just not quite right. It could feel like that was a project that failed and something you wanted to throw away because the point of it was to make the jumper. But actually, if you then have your field guide like this, where you're capturing how you found the process, what you learned from it, what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy, that then becomes the thing, right? You've centered the experience as the thing you're doing, not the jumper as the final outcome. So you give yourself permission to try things and not be good at them and figure it out along the way. And I think when we do that, hobbies not only become this beautiful excuse to play and a permission slip to experiment, but this freedom as an adult to not be good at something, right? To just try, to be bad and learn and try again and make a mess and figure it out, and not have something perfect at the end, and not have something that is like goes on your CV or that you can show to all of social media as a perfect thing, but actually is just centering the experience of enjoying the thing that you're doing. Because when we can center on that joy and that pleasure and give ourselves permission to have that as a regular daily, weekly experience, that is part of the rebellion of experiencing and living our lives versus optimizing them. And that's something I'm hugely passionate about, is like, how do we allow ourselves that permission to center pleasure and joy more regularly in our lives? And I personally think hobbies is a great way to do this. So please let me know what hobby you go and try, or what hobby you're already doing and what you love about it. Tell us, let us know. We want to hear. And if you've got a link to a project you're doing, share it below. We want to see it. We want to cheer it on. We want to explore it and be inspired by it. So please share your hobbies. It is such a lovely way to connect and give ourselves permission as adults to play. So I hope that you can keep on doing that and take some continuous playful action. If you need some inspiration, I actually run a monthly kind of play group, which is a chance to try out different creative practices. And we just play for 1 hour once a month on a Saturday, and create something that is a mixture between a creative, playful activity and something that helps us get more in touch with ourselves, that is kind of playful self-development, I guess. So I would love to have you in playgroup. If you want to join, you can go to my website, lucylincoln.com/playgroup, and you can find out all about the next event there. And yeah, please let me know what hobbies you're doing. Enjoy this week. See if you can sneak in that one thing, that spark, that thing, and see if you can sneak in that moment to try something new or to go into a hobby that you love this week. Please try and find a little bit of time to dip your toe in. And yeah, I will see you next week, hopefully with a full-on production of Fruit in the Fruit Bowl, the musical. I hope you have a week full of wonderful moments of play. But in the meantime, happy growth.